Hello and welcome to another edition of This Week in Indoor Cycling. I'm Dave from the titaniumgeek.com. After editing this video, we just thought we ought to put some context in here and a little bit of glossary of terms for those of you who understand it. If you're an experienced indoor cyclist and you understand all this stuff, please skip through to the good stuff. But just bear with us just for a couple of minutes, you'll find this very useful. When you're selecting group rides on indoor cycling platforms, we're going to use Zwift's categories here from Zwift Power. They set the categories for races, and a lot of group rides are set on similar categories. There aren't hard and fast rules, but have a look. So for example, if something is classed as Cat C, you're probably a pretty fit rider. Cat B, you're very fit, and Cat A, you're pretty awesome. If you're new or you just want an easy ride, select a Cat D ride. They're usually under 2 watts per kilogram, but look on the companion app or in the ride description and carefully check this before you start, because you can get caught out. So what is watts per kilogram? So an example is if you're a 100 kilogram rider, and apologies for those of you in the world who use pounds, but we're in Europe and we use kilos. So 100 kilogram rider, if you're producing 200 watts, simple maths is that therefore you're doing 2 watts per kilogram. If you're a 60 kilogram rider doing exactly the same 200 watts, you've got a watt per kilogram of 3.33 watts per kilo. So therefore, on any incline, on the same watts, the lighter rider would go faster. Cycling, after all, is a watts per kilogram sport. So choose a group category that fits within your comfort level or your training objectives on that day. So just be very careful on that, because you can get frustrated because you're either in a group that's too slow for you or a group that's too fast or one that's not meeting your needs. Also, some group ride top tips. Just read the ride description. Choose an event, as I've just mentioned, that meets your needs and also capabilities. Never confuse a group ride with an event or race. Some events, everybody starts together, but it's just up to you whether it's just totally uncontrolled, but it's not a race, it's just an uncontrolled ride. Just think something like the Pru Ride London on an indoor cycling platform. A group ride is a social ride usually. Stick with the ride leader, more about that in a second. Learn to surf the wheels and keep in a tight blob, another name for a peloton or bunch. Use messaging to communicate with others in the group. Polite, friendly banter, you'll get to know people, but use the text messaging that's there. Or if the group ride has a Discord channel, learn how to use Discord. Plenty of YouTube videos on that one. It's very simple to use and people in the group will probably tell you how to do it. If the group ride isn't fun, isn't meeting your capabilities, if you've got an egotistical group rider who decides he's going to ignore the group description and bob off up the road, or if people are just being general idiots, which is very, 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 very rare, get out of the group ride. Just don't get frustrated. Get out. There's plenty of them about. There's stacks. And if all else fails, nip onto a platform that has robo-bots and follow them. But generally, if you follow those group ride top tips, you will have an extraordinarily good time and have something which is easily as good as what you can achieve outside, if you want to believe that. This week, what we're covering is great news for Zwift. The UCI have awarded them with the World Championships, the Indoor World Championships. We've got terrible weather here in the UK, and you might have elsewhere with a storm, and it's probably not fit for cycling. But for those of us who stay indoors, it's definitely not a day for cycling. But great opportunity for those people who want to get re-engaged with your turbo trainers and smart trainers. What we're covering is group riding, how to get the most of group riding and actually make indoor riding fun. A lot of us remember when it wasn't great fun and we just stared at a wall or a TV screen or something like that on a normal resistance turbo trainer. Well, obviously it's a lot different nowadays. We're going to use Zwift as the example on this because that is the major platform that is used with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, so we'll use that. All other platforms are available. Let's say good stuff. Congratulations Eric Min and the team at Zwift on securing this one. That's absolutely fab. But back to group riding. Nothing better than riding outdoors with a group of friends, stopping at a cafe and all that sort of stuff. What we're going to cover now is how to do it in Zwift, get the similar sort of fun without the cafe. But great thing about riding indoors as well is you don't have to, you can take your cake with you. Anyway, so go onto the Zwift companion app on your device. We're selecting a group ride, not a race, a group ride. And what I'm choosing here is the Cyclist Alliance Community Ride. I'm logging onto Zwift. And what will happen is I'll connect in my devices and I'm late join on this ride, so you can late join rides up to 30 minutes late, and I'm clicking in and I'm going to be beamed into the ride. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to quickly get up to speed and get into this ride so I can get into the draft. So that's a key thing to remember. So even though this is, you know, a moderate pace ride, this one is 2 to 2.5 watts per kilogram, if I can get the word out, that's what I'm aiming to achieve as soon as I start pedaling. So clicking ride, so it's a late join, I'm going to beam in. Now, key thing to look out for, first of all, with group rides, is a group ride is a group ride, not a race. So if you want to join a race, join a race. You'll see in the background this thing's connected to my Sturzo because it's putting my steering on, not as I really need it in a group ride, but anyway, it's just on there. Nice to have these toys. So I say you go into the ride, you get into the draft, you look for the beacon. There's 2 beacons in this one. There's 2 ride leaders. Slightly unusual. Sometimes you have a red beacon, that's for the sweeps, people who do all the hard work off the back. Usually very strong riders to pull people back on. What we have here is the fence. If the fence appears in front of you in a ride, and you'll see what the fence looks like in real life in a second, that's it. You might get booted out dependent on the ride, or you might just get warnings, but it's just good etiquette. You know, what you're supposed to do when you're riding a group ride with your friends is 1, you don't half wheel, and certainly 2, you don't go off up the road. You stay with a tight group. That's the whole idea. Before Strava, we didn't sprint for signs unless it was the end of a chain gang and stuff like that. We occasionally did bit stuff like that, but if it's a social group ride, social group ride. Some rides on Zwift do sprinting for stuff. There are interval sessions that some of the groups do. Look at the ride descriptions when you log into your companion app to make sure that you're doing the correct sort of ride. But what you want to be doing is staying as close to the ride leader as possible, looking top right on your screen, which is the beacon, and follow the beacon. Say this ride's got 2 beacons in it, it's got 2 professional riders. That tick at the side of somebody's name means they're either an ex-pro or they're a current pro. So give them due respect, don't half-wheel them, stay as close as possible. You can see this ride at the moment is slightly snaking out. If everybody stays close to the beacons, we're fine. So here's another example. Looking top right again, further on in this ride. We've got everybody gone snaky. And even worse, I had a power drop. So that happens occasionally, and I've had to reinstall my companion app. A bit of a top tip there. If your companion app goes glitchy, delete it, reinstall it, and it should get rid of the problem. I usually connect directly to all my devices, but I was using the companion app first time, so I was told it's solid, and you know it's slightly flakier than what I would like. And would I connect all my devices to the companion app again? Probably not. However, how do you get around that problem? How you get around the problem is if you disconnect from all your devices, you can go to settings, reconnect on the connection screen on settings, and hoof it back to the group, or find people who've been dropped and group with those. Ideally, nobody's been grouped and everybody's keeping it sensible, and you don't have the problem. If you do get kicked out and you've lost the group and you're still within the first 30 minutes, log back into Zwift, exit Zwift, log back in, and you'll get beamed back into the group again, or as close to the ride leader as possible. So that's just a bit of a tip for you. But you can see what's happened here is what I call the sporty rider's curse. You're going up, you're trying to stay with a ride leader, and some people push on too hard. That's normally caused by people having their slider way up, and you get resistance on your turbo and you lean on your pedals too hard, and you can break a group up. I find for group rides, particularly moderately paced group rides, that if you pull your slider down and just try and keep your revs, for example, I'm trying to aim for 90 to 100 RPM in a ride, and I've been getting a bad habit lately of going down to 80, which I don't like. So, you know, trying to spin out, keep your resistance fairly clear. If you'll still get a little bit of resistance on the hills, but the aim is to stay tight with the group. You see, what I've been able to do is to get back onto the group. The ride leaders controlled the group, which is fabulous. So, summary so far: keep to the wattage, keep looking right, top right and looking right. Stay a tight blob. Obey what the leader says. Have due respect for them. Don't half wheel. Also, try not to drop out the back. If you get the key place to be in a blob, even me saying this is probably going to cause a little bit of fighting position. If you stay within the first 4, particularly not the front, but with second, third, fourth, fifth, something like that, you've got a really good opportunity to surf the wheels and reduce your watts. If you get right at the back of a blob, particularly with double draft, you sometimes have to hoof it, so keep looking bottom right, and if you notice you're at the back of the group, just push the pedal slightly and get further in. So you can see once again what happened with this group ride was it split up a little bit because of people hoofing it too much off the front. Just a tip for ride leaders as well, with all due respect, if your ride is advertised at, for example, 2.5 to 2.0 or 2.0 to 2.5, ride in that range. Don't chase people down, let them go, just ignore them, and that's just a little bit of advice from me. So just a key tip when you get onto your companion app after a ride, and you can see what you can do from these screens. This is how you can look up stuff anyway. You can look up rides. What I've gone into here, I've gone to activities, and I've looked up that activity I did. And what I want to do is I want to give me a ride on back, and I can do that by just clicking on the thumbs up, and it does that. And as you can see, when you look at events in advance of doing the event, you can see all the details in here, who's, famous people riding it and all that sort of stuff. So that's a really, really useful tool. RGT though, another great place you can do group rides. As I said last week, you can even have your own bots who don't chat, who on the companion app and Zwift, we can send messages to each other and have a bit of a chat, a bit of banter and friendly stuff and all that sort of stuff, and you get to make some great friends around the world, which is fab. On RGT, they do exactly the same, but also they have bots, and so you might have not that many people on there, but you can have up to 99 people you can ride with. But really good stuff that RGT crew are doing, particularly the Watt per Kilogram team, is they're organising a Tour de France schedule. Don't worry, you don't have to do the full 200 odd kilometres of each ride. It's just a stage for each one. Originally, I would say sort of like the people who charged ahead on this one previously are the Cycling Podcast team, who did what's called our Giro. So when the Giro should have been on it, we had our Giro, and they did a brilliant podcast every day. Now what the Watt per Kilogram team are doing is doing their Tour de France. So there'll be a stage every day on RGT. It'll be loaded in the event calendar on RGT, on the RGT app, and you can ride them, and there'll be people there to have banter with and bots to ride with and all that sort of stuff. And what a great thing to say you've done almost 21 days of riding with the odd rest day, and you've done it indoors when the weather may have turned really bad. So that's from us this week. So what did we cover? Well, we covered great news for Zwift, the UCI, and indoor cycling when we go in, and riders can get a proper World Championship jersey from the UCI. It's happened before, I know, but it's happening again. We've got group riding skills. Please ask any questions, make comments below, and I'll answer them, which is fab. And then also, we've got RGT doing some good stuff. Other stuff we'll cover next week is On the Rivet, which is a new cycling app. I told the guys I'd do it this week, but sorry, we've run out of time with this one. So I'll cover on the Rivet, which looks really interesting. It's got steering, it's got braking, it's got just about everything except for group riding, and it's done somebody with a physics degree, which is going to be really interesting about the way in which you bike, because the claims are when you ride on the Rivet, it's more accurate than anything else, I believe. So that's going to be a good one. We've got GT Grand Theft Auto cycling to cover, and also in a future edition of This Week in Indoor Cycling, we're going to get some of the top indoor racers in the UK talking about racing skills. So that's for your indoor racing season. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We're heading up towards 1,000 subscribers. If you could get us there, that would be flipping marvellous. So thanks again. Ride on, ride free. Just to stop press at the time of editing the video, a bit like what we did at the start. What occurred on Zwift yesterday was Pace Partners. The robos eventually appeared. So when you log on to Zwift on Watopia now, you'll notice, as you can see there, Pace Partners. Click on them, and then when you click Ride, you'll be given the option to ride with Pace Partners. On the next screen, you'll be given the 2 Pace Partners to choose from. There are 3, but there was just 2 last night. You choose the one that's most appropriate to you, a bit like in the description for the group ride. So imagine this is a group ride with one little robo. You'll notice when you ride with them as well, they do robo chat, which is fascinating. This is the screen you see next. Big shout out to Ian Notley and Pete Cooper from KRT. But this is what you do next. You've selected your partner, so-called partner. It just sounds strange, doesn't it? Then ride with Coco and you'll see what appears next. You see this rather engaging screen that gives you more information with what is a pace partner, the classifications and staying with the group, and all self-explanatory. Please leave us feedback. How did you go on with the pace partner and what do you think to them? Thanks again for watching. Ride on.